it's time to choose my products for next week. So I have some pulled out and I'm just going to go through each kind of category. So I'm going to move this out of the way and start with primer. So last week I used this primer, which is the Tarte Timeless Smoothing Primer. I'm pretty much done with it. I could probably get not much out of there, maybe half a day. So I'm going to completely finish this up, but that means that I'm going to need another primer for next week. So I think I will choose two. I'm going to first go with the Becca Ever Matte Primer. Becca is now out of business, but I do still have, I think this is the last product I have from them that I would like to use up. This is a very matte primer, so if you do ever use it, be prepared to be very matte. Now that I've got a matte primer, I think I will also grab this All Nighter by Urban Decay. This is the Ultra Glow Primer. So this gives more of a glow, hence the name, and I think it's a good thing to pull since I already have a very matte primer that I will be using. So there are my primers. Here are all of the foundations I currently have in rotation. So there are some liquids, there are some cream to powders, there are some powder foundations and some stick foundations, so a lot of variety. This past week I was using the Cover FX. There we go. The Cover FX Power Play foundation. I really like this because it is very matte and I like a matte look, but I'm going to put that one back for right now. And I think what I'm going to do is to go back to my NARS Soft Matte, very similar to the Power Play, I think. And I have been working my way through this foundation, so I want to get more use out of it as I get close to using it up. Now I do have two shades, and I typically mix them if one shade doesn't feel right. So I've got New Caledonia, and I've also got Manaz. So that will be my matte foundation, and I think just like I did with the primer, I'll go for like maybe a radiant or a more natural look. And I think what I'll do is stick with NARS, and I will pull out my NARS Naturally Radiant. Again, I have it in two shades because, you know, sometimes I'm a little lighter, sometimes a little darker. So I have Manaz and New Caledonia, and as you can see, I'm definitely making my way through it. Now let's move on to concealer. These are the concealers I currently have in rotation. I just have them all in this little container. So this past week I used the Cover FX Power Play Concealer to go along with the foundation. I think this week, similar to what I'm doing with the foundations, I want to continue using some things up. So one that I've kind of put down for a while, and I know I can get through it because I've gotten through other ones of the same product, is the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define concealer. I'm not sure that I even have much in there, but I definitely want to just finish it up and be done with it. And then the other one that I want to finish up is this one from Hourglass. Like, it's unfortunate because I really do like this concealer, but the brand is just kind of shady. So I just want to finish this up. I think two concealers are fine. So now let's move on to powder. Here are the pressed powders that I currently have in rotation. So typically I will pick a powder for under eye setting or setting my concealer, and then I'll also pick a powder to kind of set everything as a finishing powder. So I am going to keep going on with my Pat McGrath under eye setting powder. This is actually the brown one. I am going to use the yellow because I do have some pan. So this is kind of turning into using the products I'm trying to pan or finish. So I do have some pan on this powder and I want to get more. So this will be my under eye setting powder and to set my concealer. Now for all over powder, let's see. I think on the train of continuing to pan things, I will pull out my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Filter Powder. Now I do have it in the shade 4 and I also have it in the shade 3, but I have the biggest pan in the shade 4. So this will be my finishing powder. Now, I think I want to possibly pull out a loose powder. So let's go do that. So here are some of my loose powders, and this week I have been using, or I guess last week, the Cover FX setting powder in Deep. And it does seem like I'm making my way through this, so I think this will pop back in to continue on my panning journey. And in this drawer, I do have a couple of bronzers and blushes and contour. So I'm going to go ahead and pick those. Let's see. For bronzer, I think I will pull out my favorite powder bronzer, which is the Makeup Revolution Glow Matte Bronzer. And this is in the shade Dark. You can see I've got some big pan on that. This really is my favorite powder bronzer, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that one out. And just in case I want to use a cream, I think I've got the Vanessa Myricks one. I've got the Fenty Matchsticks. I've also got this Kaja Bento Box. And I think those are the only creams. I do have some cream Vanessa Myricks contour. But I think I'll just pick a contour or a bronzer. I won't pick both. So I think I will just stick with my Vanessa Myricks Power Bronzer. It's in the shade Deep. And I'm definitely making progress on it. There's definitely some dips in there. So yeah, I want to keep making some progress on that. And I will go ahead and pick some blush and maybe just like other cheek products. So I have some creams and I also have some powders. I have some of the Pat McGrath ones. And I think what I'm going to do is to grab one of my Cover FX duos. We've got Mojave Mauve or Spiced Cinnamon. I think I'm going to go with Spiced Cinnamon because, again, this is one that I'm seeing some dips in, definitely in the matte side. I really do want to make sure I use the shimmery side as well, so I'm just going to pull this one out. Spiced Cinnamon for my powder blush. And then for cream, it's an easy choice. I'm gonna go with my Milani Cream Blush, the Cheek Kiss in Merlot Moment. And this has a very wine, kind of deep red shade going on. Getting some dips in that too. I don't tend to wear much highlighter, so I'm not gonna worry about highlighter for this coming week. If anything, I'll just kind of grab one if I'm feeling highlightery. Oh, and I forgot for my another primer for eyeshadow, I'm going to continue with my Makeup by Mario Prep and Set in the shade Deep. So we've got one side that I've already panned, and I'm working on this other side. Getting a little bit of a dip in the powder part too. Let's move on to my favorite part, and that is eyeshadow. So I've got a couple of drawers here, and I think I'm going to go into this drawer because it has most of my bigger palettes. So I've got my Natasha Denona palettes here, and the minis I actually have in a different place. The little small 5 pans and then like the larger 5 pans. That's in a different spot, as well as other like 4-pan eyeshadow, like small eyeshadow palettes that I have. So these are kind of my some of my bigger ones, because there's also this drawer, and then there's another drawer down there. Don't worry about it. So I feel like I always am pulling Natasha Denona, so I'm not gonna worry about those this week, I don't think. I used my Wayne Goss week before last. Here's one of them. I'll be sure to pull these out again, but I think ones that I have not paid as much attention to would be these two here, which are from Melt. So this is the Rust eyeshadow palette. I know I've used it. I've used it for, I was doing a presentation and wanted to use some of the more neutral shades. So we've got that, and this feels very fall / Halloween. And then I've also got the She's in Parties palette. So this has like the purples and pinks that I really like. Now, I often change my mind about eyeshadow. So, one thing that I have been trying to do is to use my Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes more often so that I'm not just saving them for special occasions. So, let's go into this drawer. Now, I have some of the quads here, but I do feel like I tend towards the quads. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to pull one of the motherships. Part of me is thinking of the Celestial Divinity, which is the holiday palette from last year. But I kind of already do have some of those purple tones in the She's in Parties palette. So maybe we won't do that one. I'll pick Mothership 1. That feels easiest. This is the Subliminal palette. Open it. So this definitely has some cooler tones, and yeah, I feel like this will give me some difference between the two Melt palettes. I don't think there's much like overlap in terms of colors. I think they each kind of have their own cool color story. Just wanted to get a bit of a closer look at the eyeshadow palette. So here is the Rust palette, and then we've got She's in Parties, and then we have the Pat McGrath. So yeah, I feel like they're all different enough to get me a couple of different looks throughout the week. So lip products, I'm going to pick out some lipsticks, and I have my lip products in these 3-drawer containers, and I have 6 of these containers, so I'm not going to go through all of them. I either organize them by brand if I have a bunch of the same brand, or color. It kind of just depends. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to show you what I picked rather than going through all of those 6 drawers that I've got. I picked out a couple of options. Okay, so I think first will be this lipstick from Urban Decay. It is one of their Vice lipsticks, and it's in the older packaging. The shade is Ravenswood. And here's another thing that I'm making really good progress on. I really want to use it up. This is one of my favorite shades, if not my favorite shade of lipstick. I find that it can lean pink, but it can also lean sort of like a nudie pink. And yeah, I really, really like it. I also like that the name of it is Ravenswood because I was and am obsessed with Pretty Little Liars and the spin-off of the show. It's called Ravenswood. So there is that lipstick. And I think I want like a nude sort of brown. So I picked these 2 products from Juvia's Place. I only have lip products from them now. I go back and forth on how I feel about the brand and some of the shenanigans they've gotten into. So yeah. This is the shade Toffee. Is that right? Yeah. This is the shade Toffee, and it's definitely like a nude, and I really like it. I gave my cousins my eyeshadow palettes from the brand, but I didn't feel like I could give them my lip products. So that is another lipstick, and then I've also got this mini liquid lipstick, and this is from the Bronzed collection in the shade Toast. So you can see that this is also like a nudie brown, like Toast. So there is that, and then I usually pull out like a reddish kind of color, and I did just get my Lisa Eldridge lipsticks. I have 3 of them, and the one that is like more of the red shade is this one that's called Velvet Myth. Sort of like a plummy, but I think I might, I'm trying to think, I might save these and just kind of review all 3 around the same time. If you didn't see on my Instagram, I did do a live try on of the 3 shades that I got. So this is a maybe as to whether or not I'll use it. I haven't quite decided if I want to just go ahead and have a dedicated video to it, because I also got a sample card of the foundation she has coming out, so I might just want to do all of the Lisa Eldridge stuff together. So I think I'm gonna put that aside. Okay, so I pulled out a couple of options from several different drawers. So one is this lipstick from NARS, and it is called Heroin Red. It's very deep, very, very deep. But I really like it. Okay, that's a contender. Then I pulled 2 liquid lipsticks from Dose of Colors. They probably have my favorite liquid lipstick formula. This first one is Berry Me Too. So it's a berry. Ooh, look at that. That's super pretty. Okay. And then another shade that I pulled is Merlot. Okay. I can't decide. I feel like I haven't used a NARS lipstick in a while, so I'll go ahead and go with this. Yeah, I'll go with that. Okay, so let's go over everything. So for primer, I have the Urban Decay All Nighter Ultra Glow Primer. This is a glowy primer. I also have the Becca Ever Matte Primer, and that is a matte primer. And if I can get anything else out before I put this in my little empties bin, I will get the rest of this Tarte primer out. For foundation, I have a matte choice, which is the NARS Soft Matte Foundation. And then I also have a more natural radiant foundation with the NARS Naturally Radiant. For concealer, we are going to go with the Shady brand, and yeah. And we're also going to try to finish up this Makeup Revolution concealer. Now for setting powders, for under the eyes, I have the Pat McGrath Under Eye Setting Powder in yellow. Just love showing that pan. Then we've got the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder in the shade 4. And for a loose powder, I have the Cover FX Setting Powder in Deep. Now for cheek products, for cream blush, I have the Milani Cheek Kiss in Merlot Moment. And for powder blush, I have the Cover FX Spiced Cinnamon Duo. For cream bronzer, I have the Danessa Myricks Power Bronzer. And then for powder bronzer, I have the Makeup Revolution Ultra Matte Bronzer. For eyeshadow primer, I have the Makeup by Mario Prep and Set in the shade Deep. For eyeshadow palettes, we've got the Rest palette from Melt. The She's in Parties palette from Melt. And Mothership 1 Subliminal from Dame Pat McGrath. For lip products, we have a NARS lipstick in Heroin Red. Then we've got 2 nude options, 1 lipstick in the shade Toffee and 1 liquid lipstick in the shade Bronze Toast. And then the lipstick that I am panning, which is the Urban Decay Vice lipstick in the shade Ravenswood. There is everything. So I will update you on whatever I use that isn't in here. And I'm excited to make some progress on those project pan items. And that's it. Hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time.